So, welcome everybody. I hope everybody's got access to our conference. And my name is Caroline Kramer, human geographer of the Institute of Geography and Ecology in Karlsruhe, a member of a research group of the Barcelona Time Use Initiative, and I will be moderating this event. The event is called Time, Mobility and Sustainability, an opportunity to increase resilience. It's coordinated by the local and regional government Time Network, the international network to exchange and promote implementable time policies generated at the local and regional level, and it's part of the Time for All project founded by the European Union. Thank you, first of all, to the speakers, and thank you to more than 250 people, at least, who have registered till now. The event will last 2 hours, and it will be structured into 3 parts. First of one, the presentation of what is a time agenda and summarizing the conclusions of the time agenda 1 and 2. The second part will an introductory conversation on the right to time and urban resilience. And the third part, we will take a look into inspiring 9 cases discussing how to deal with the rush hours, how to build 15-minute cities, how to encourage a timely, sustainable mobility outside big cities, and how urban planning can integrate gender and time perspectives. At least we will have time for questions and answers by the audience, and you can write them in the chat during the webinar in English, Spanish, and Catalan. Before starting, let me make 2 communication remarks. First, if you wish to tweet, please use the hashtag #TimeAgenda, T and A uppercase. Language, if you want to listen all in English or Catalan, you can use the button below to select the language. Now, I'm going to give the floor to Marta Junqué, co-secretary of the local and regional government's Time Network, to make the official welcome and presentation of the Time Agenda 1 and 2. Please, Marta.
Thank you very much, Caroline, and good afternoon to the colleagues connected from Europe, and good morning to the colleagues connected from Latin America and the States. As Caroline mentioned, today I will be talking as a secretary of the local and regional government's Time Network. This is a network that was founded in 2008 and is a unique worldwide network that focuses on the implementation of time policies and promoting the right to time, especially at the local and regional level. The network includes cities around the world, especially over Europe, as Barcelona, Bergamo, Milano, Strasbourg, and recently started to expand in Latin America. Cities as Bogotá, Montevideo, Buenos Aires are already part of it. The network has been awarded with funds from the European Union to execute a project called Time for All, which aims to promote right to time in the cities and towns and organize events like the one today. Let me start my intervention thanking to all the amazing speakers that we have today here with us, and also to all the collaborators that make this time agenda possible. Thank you to all of you. In my next 5 minutes, I will try to provide an answer to the questions that Caroline was already suggesting. What is a local and regional time agenda? Is that the first publication that we are publishing? Why did we choose this topic? And what is the next? So let's start. The local and regional time agenda is like a white book on time policies. It's a compilation of time policies that have been implemented by local, metropolitan, and regional authorities from all over the world. These time policies are grouped by topic and includes practical recommendations on how to implement them, and as well evaluates the impact that they are having into the society. The agenda is coordinated by the local and regional government's time network. As you know, most of you, time policies are a new area of public policies for many institutions. The objective of these agendas, of these publications, is to show a clear and real example of what are time policies and how are they being implemented. This will allow us to show that right to time is not just a theoretical concept, but it has begun to be implemented in practices in many institutions at the local and regional level. The first publication started in 2022, and we have the commitment of developing 2 topics every year. Last year, we developed the publications of, on one hand, life balance, and the other hand, the one that we are presenting today, relating time and mobility. Let me briefly explain what you can find in our first publication that is called Life Balance. If you look at the chat, you will find the link where you can download this publication. The hypothesis of this publication was that we need to find a better balance between the different uses of time. The current social model is based on the 888-hour model that was defined at the end of the 19th century. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for resting time, and 8 hours for recreation. However, we know that this model causes time poverty and important negative effects on our health, well-being, and productivity. So, the objective of that publication was to show and defend the idea that we need to find a better balance between these 4 key elements: work time, rest time, free time, but also we need to include care time. In that publication, we show real examples, more than 35 practices being implemented to find this better life balance. And also we had 2 introductory articles, one from the International Labour Organization and the other from Eurofund. But well, today you are here to talk about time and mobility and to listen about that. So let me explain a bit more about this publication on time, mobility, and sustainability. The local and regional time agenda that we are presenting today covers a topic of global relevance. That is this relation between time, mobility, sustainability, and how it is that an opportunity of resilience. Later, Emmanuel and Gabriela will reflect on that. The network envisages that cities and regions of the 21st century are conceived as a place designed not to waste the citizens' time, but to save time. So it's important that we have policies in that matters. Currently, given the social discontent and the climate emergency, it's urgent to democratize time, improving mobility and sustainability of our cities. And time policies are a direct answer to all these issues. Let me show a couple of data to clarify this urgency. We have data that indicates that people will prefer to reduce their time in commuting. Current data points that there are deep disparities among people around the world, in particularly between men and women, social classes, and urban and rural areas on this time that they need to commute. In Latin America, in some cities, citizens spend more than 4 hours per day, 20% of their daily time commuting. In Europe, it's estimated that it's among 1 and 2 hours per day. So it represents almost 10% of our time. So we need to think how we can as well improve this aspect. As you can see in the chat, to tackle these debates, this publication contains 3 articles that allowed us to reflect on these key challenges and opportunities of time policies and sustainability. The first one was written by Mr. Lair from City Resilient Global Program from the United Nations Habitat. The second is written by Mr. Munch, a specialist in mobility and researchers of the research office at the Ministry of Ecological Transition of the French government. And the third one was written by Mrs. Charo Moran, Yayo Herrero, and Elena Pariente from Cooperativa Garua, that is an NGO promoting ecological and social projects in Latin America and in Spain. Following these reflections, you will find in this publication 31 inspiring time policies from Europe and Latin America, including different realities, from big cities to rural areas, including as well metropolis and regional dimensions. And in this agenda, the information is grouped in 3 main areas, in 3 main chapters. The first one is time policies to enforce sustainability and mobility. The second is time policies to promote the power of the proximity. And the third one is time policies to rethink the urban planning, especially taking into consideration the dimension of gender and intersectionality. And to finalize, let me announce the topics that the board of the network had chosen to develop this 2023. So the new publications that we will be doing. One will be on time as a key element for participation and democracy. And the second will be time policies at night. During the year, the network will organize different events, and we will celebrate the General Assembly in October, from the 16th to the 18th of October in Barcelona. If any of the cities or the stakeholders that are newly participating today wants to join to the network, you can find all the information in the network in the webpage of the local and regional governments time network. You will find the link as well in the chat. And just to finalize, thank you again for your interest on the topic. I'm sure that together we can make possible that the right to time is a right for all citizens in the 21st century. And I wish you a very nice event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marta, for this introduction and for the outline which we are going to face during the next year. And so we come to our second part of this presentation, to our introductory conversation between Gabriela Wecher, which I want to welcome warmly, urban resilience consultant at the UN Habitat, and Emmanuel Monk, research officer for the French Ministry of Ecological Transition. I would like to start with 2 questions. First, Gabriela. You work at the UN Habitat, an organization that manages experiences and data from all over the world. Which are the main issues related to time, mobility, and sustainability? And perhaps especially, how does it affect time poverty, which is the main issue in our conference?
Hi, Caroline. Hi, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. I really like the topic of this event, and it's really important to rethink about our relation with time when talk about mobility. Many times we're talking about sustainable mobility and sustainable and green infrastructure, but we don't talk a lot about on what's the main purpose of the mobility, that it's pretty much we developed our mobility systems to improve the access to opportunity. And when we think about the efficacy of our policies in this sense, did we enhance the access, or we are more distant of this goal when we think about our mobility system, especially in many cities in the global south, where we work, especially, for example, in Latin America, when we have mega cities and even smaller cities that we consider there, people still spend 2 hours in on-way commuting time. So we are mobility is not delivered on its purpose, that is to increase access, and it is instead exacerbating inequalities in this sense. And I think this increasing inequalities is the main issue that we still have in this relation of time and mobility. Inequalities rising, this promise of the urbanization and the enhanced mobility is still a challenge, because many cities are spending more time commuting than before. Obviously, this affects sustainability, not only because the obvious relation of the main energy source for mobility that are fossil fuels nowadays, and this increasing GHG emissions and all the traffic congestion reduce air quality, but also this relation of time, in the other hand, forces a compensation for this commuting time. So people tend to modify behavior and choices, and they choose convenience over sustainability in many times. So the way we increase on consumption of disposable items, we generate more waste. We tend to change our behavior to save time over our choices, and we end up making choices that are less sustainable and generated more adverse consequences for the environment in general. And also it reduces the resiliency of cities and communities, because we lose time in the end, and we lose that precious time that we would have for community building, for strengthening social cohesion, for taking care of our health, for personal development and other activities that would strengthen this urban, but especially community and personal resilience. And from the perspective of the City Resilience Global Program, where we work, this time is dedicated to build our personal and community resilience. Is essential to deal, especially in this new era that we have exacerbated consequences and impacts of disaster. This time poverty is one of the main challenges that we need to overcome when we need to create and improve community and personal resilience.
Thank you very much for these very important issues, and it's quite interesting. You mentioned the rebound effect that we get from some advances. And now the second question to Emmanuel: do the same issues and characterizations which we heard from Gabriela apply to France and Europe too? How has mobility changed, and especially the COVID era had a lot of changes, I think, in mobility. What do you mean?
Hello, Caroline. I'm glad to see you again. Hello, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. Well, it's a consequent question. I try to answer about it in a very short manner, and I can give you a few insights from France and perhaps a bit from Europe, but it's still difficult to compare things at such a big scale of analysis. So, but let's say there exists a big picture, and then I would resume it as the notion of excess. In developed countries, there is a very large consensus now that allow to say that there is nowadays an excess of mobility. People travel too much. It has both individual and collective negative consequence, in particular for ecological concerns. I think you all have it in mind. I don't go too much further into it. But what is interesting also, in my view, is to have a look on what people declare about their wishes regarding their way of life in the future. So from various national and international surveys in developed countries, the first desire about the future is to slow down their pace of life. And it is always closely linked in order to regain relationships in proximity. So this problem between excess of travel and the desire for proximity and a more tranquil way of life is closely linked with the speed of travel and sustainable objective. I go a bit more deeper into this analysis if it's okay for you. So you know that on average, the more you travel, the more you pollute. you know that on average, the more you travel faster, the more you go further, meaning the more you pollute. So indeed, everyone should know that saying speed saves time is a lie. Speed consumes space, or more generally, allow to consume more opportunities. So 2 times faster equals 2 times further. And at the end, the same duration of travel. Statisticians, they have shown that through the history, almost everywhere, people tended to move around approximately 1 hour per day. When you look at the history, at the beginning of the 18th century, average speed was approximately the speed of walk, 4 to 5 kilometers per hour, meaning that people consume every day 4 to 5 kilometers of travel. So nowadays, it's 10 times stronger. So in France, in 2019, on average, it's 45 kilometers per hour for the speed, and so approximately 44 kilometers for distance on average per day. So there is a kind of systematic logic through this relationship: speed progress, same time of travel, more distance, more opportunities, and economic growth. And I think that what is interesting today is that things are potentially changing. When you look at the latest National Household Travel Survey in France, aggregate statistics reveal that for the first time in the history of official travel survey in France, there is on one side distance traveled that remain the same compared to the last period of observation, and a little supplement time dedicated in travel. So all in all, people travel consequently slowly. They don't go further, but have to travel longer to keep the same level of distance travel. And it's new, this thing, in the history of mobility analysis. So to me, this could be the sign that in over-industrialized countries, I will use the formula from Ivan Illich. We can talk about it later if you're interested in this author. We have obviously reached a limit, a turning point, where the cultural and economical view of progress is being obsolete and backfires against its own objective. So transport was supposed to save you time, but too much transport can make you lose time. Perhaps this is one thing you can keep in mind regarding this analysis. And if I have 1 minute left, I can give you a few insights about COVID. Otherwise, we can, okay, I see Caroline moving his head, saying seems to be okay. Yeah, perhaps what I can say about the post-COVID era and how things might have changed regarding mobility. I would like perhaps to say that one thing that we can keep in mind is that globally, we tend to overestimate the impact of the COVID, because it globally impacts the upper class population, people who are subject to write article, debate in front of each other, like me, like the other, and so on. So there is a social class bias in the analysis. For instance, many things has now returned to the normal. From the film that I know in the Paris region, transport frequentation in transport public has now returned to the level before COVID era. And it's interesting to note that, for instance, regarding the peak hour distribution of arrival times at work, it's true that now there is in big cities more remote work, and so people tend to go at work more and more on Tuesday and Thursday. Those are the days where you have to be in the office because all the teleworkers are also here. So what is happening in transport public is that on Tuesday and Thursday, you have more people during the peak hour at this time because to summarize it, everybody now has a meeting at 9 on Tuesday and Thursday. So you can have a picture on COVID that everything is going, being desynchronizing and so on. But I'd like to, I'd like to say that sometimes there is a picture that is a bit overestimating what we have in mind regarding COVID.
Yes, thank you. You're right. That's a social topic, that white-collar discussion concerning home office and so on. Thank you very much for this first impressions. I would shortly come to a second question. We talked about the current problems. What do you think, Gabriela, might be possibly solutions, but not solutions? That's hard to find. But what would be the role of municipalities and regions to ensure resilience and the right to time? What would be their role in that development?
Yes. Yes, I think one of the primary roles of the local governments is to push for this understanding that time is not a commodity and time is a right, and it's a right that's complementary to the main right to the city as a place of realization, as a place of access to opportunities, instead of a places that are exacerbating inequalities to opportunities. We need these governments needs to rethink these services provision models that they have for having a more socially adequate and just distribution of these services with a better accessibility, and this need to think of the mobility as a mean to achieve an end and not an end goal itself as we have today. So when you think about urban resilience, normally we tend to think about improving the different urban systems that you have and mobilities as a system itself. But we need to, as Edward was saying, we cannot lose the sight of the main goal of mobility. And we cannot have mobility systems that the way we live, the way services are provided, the way our work is structured, the way our life is structured, in the end, we spend more time on commuting than before. We need to reorganize our land use planning, having this goal in mind, that we need to have the reduced demand, the reduced need for commuting and for having long commuting patterns as we have today. Having this, I think this awareness raising role of mobilities and regions is crucial. The role of rethinking the service provision and land use planning and mobility systems as also a very important role under the competencies of these governments. And besides that, also trying to enhance and improve towards more sustainable modes of transportation, the actual models that we have today in cities that are more prioritizing individual vehicles over more public and healthy transport modes, as walking as a basic mobility mode that we have. And also having a greater role and engaging in community participation when we rethink the neighborhoods that we have and want to have, if we want to advance for 15-minute city concepts, for example.
Thank you very much. I think that's a really important point, that we have to think about not only land use planning, but land and time use planning. So to overlay these dimensions, that would be a very important way. The second question to Emmanuel on that matter: can time policies create a framework for regulating urban mobility? You wrote an article and you mentioned the concept of sustainability. What do you mean? Sustainability. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I can talk about shortly about sustainability. It's a mix between sustainability and time. And before, yes, I can try to answer about this question regarding the framework. Are time policies able to develop a framework for regulating urban mobility? Well, I don't know, but from what I have observed in the past in the functionment of time officers, I can say something for the future, but depends on how time offices are managing their job. So the action of time offices, from what I have observed, fits into the usual framework of local action towards acceleration in economic growth. In this sense, sometimes, in spite of themselves, time office follow the precepts of what we call in urban studies a functional city. So when I surveyed French, Spanish, and Italian cities, persons in charge of time offices frequently depicted the same tendency. The community's vocation is to absorb ever more flows. It's not the regulation of mobilities, it's more the integration of the economic time to produce, consume, and travel ever faster. So is it not time to move gradually from a model of always faster, cheaper, slower, closer, to live better? So the interest of this line of thought in urban spaces seems to be validated when we look at the wishes of the population. As I mentioned before, people are globally looking for more relations in proximity and the kind of slowdown of their pace of life. At least this is what they say when we ask about their wishes in the future. And to try to be short on what is sustainability and how it could be useful as a concept for time offices. I developed this concept to depict public action that aims to fulfill sustainability objectives by means of social time regulations. So social time regulation has always been the idea of time offices, but I'm not sure that sustainability was so present in the issues that they were facing. So what can be, for instance, a sustainability policy? For instance, reduction of working hours can be a significant sustainable policy. It is shown that working less reduces energy consumption. By the way, do you know what is the less polluting activity of human being? It's sleeping. So a policy that would favorize more time to sleep would be a great sustainable policy. So those are examples beside mobility. And there are many examples in the field of mobility policies. For instance, local politicians have been involved for many years, in some cases, in organizing mobility with a view to slowing down urban travel, particularly in town centers, such as switching to walking, cycling, boating, limit your car speeds, and so on. And that seemed to satisfy globally the population. But the thing is that, from my view, we miss, and perhaps time offices miss, a global planning model that would clearly place the interests in preserving slowness in urban metropolises, where the intensity of pace of life is sometimes too pervasive. And to have more clue and information, I invite you to have a look on the documents.
Okay, thank you very much. So we learned timeability and the importance of sleep concerning sustainable development. But to both a last question and perhaps two short answers. Mm-hmm. How do you imagine a society in which the right to time is guaranteed in terms of mobility and sustainability? It's a very wide question for short answers. Gabriela.
Well, I think the question has the answer in itself. It's to understand that, to expand the societal understanding that time is a right. It's a similar concept that we have in the past with water, that to understand that water was an abundant commodity. And the same time, or now, like in our time, we understand time as a cheap and abundant commodity. We used to think that data was the greatest commodity of our time, but I say that time is the greatest commodity and cheap commodity of our time, because they use data to buy our time, the time that we spend, for example, using apps, the time that we spend on some social networks or device, and this is the greatest commodity, and we're selling this very cheap. The same way happens with the gig economy and how people are like having their productivity measured in seconds through these different, for example, delivery apps or other online services that people need to deliver with a really stressed pace. We need to rethink that time is scarce and time is valuable. Time is really scarce good, and we cannot sell this very cheap because this is our life. And when we measure the value of our life, we should not be selling this very cheap, that cheap. So the same things applies to mobility and our relation on how we spend time around the city. We need to understand this as a time. We need to understand this as a right and not a cheap commodity. And it's a valuable and a scarce resource that we have, that we need to protect and have a better use of this resource for the enhanced resilience of our communities. And other part, I'm sorry, I've been really expanding my answer, is to think also in the intersectionalities of time poverty and the way that we tackle these differences on, for example, time commuting for the different groups we have. Normally, when you have the mobility planning systems, you tend to aggregate all this data and to have the mobility planning through all these systems using these aggregate models, but we need to understand the different use of time and how it affects different groups of people, since vulnerable groups, or different mobility patterns for different gender and different groups of the society, and how they move and how they have different necessities and demands, and have more specific a more specific offer for this different demand. We need to observe this intersectionality, otherwise we won't have a proper mobility system for the different time needs that different populations have.
Okay, thank you, Gabriela. Emmanuel, what do you think?
Yes, so same question. I have the feeling that we are also on a hurry on very important questions. There is we are facing the same issue we're discussing. Okay. So just the first thing, perhaps we can have a discussion later, but to be honest, I'm not really convinced by the idea or the goal of the right to time. If right to time is supposedly, choose your own time, meaning the organization of your life in a constant socioeconomic system, it is the equivalent as rendering people ever more dependent to acceleration, time inequalities, other social and ecological issues related to time activities and mobility. In the same vein, having the possibility of traveling, consuming at every time, everywhere, gives a greater right to manage your time, so a right to time, with the idea that the more you travel, the more you produce, the more you consume, the greatest accomplished person you are. But is it really for the good for the quality of life? So I'm questioning, okay, for the global idea of the right of time, but then if we have the right to choose, what's happening in the society? I mean, for me, it requires a stronger question on regulation before we give the right to time to do anything, and then people are dependent on social time and the way time is organized. Just to be short and to answer on what I can imagine, in my view, I imagine that if time policies embrace sustainable objectives, it means changing the software. It means giving importance to quality rather than quantity. It is associated with a shift from a lookout from material prosperity to temporal prosperity. And it requires, in terms of urban planning, transforming our restless functional cities into convivial cities. So making concrete room for a holistic vision of well-being and health in the city. And this would mechanically put the spotlight on children, the elderly, people with disabilities who are often pushed to the side of urban life because they are too slow to fit in the ever accelerating course. So finally, this new framework means reconciling the political and the individual. It means bringing together collective constraints, such as ecological goals, with the individual aspirations, such as slowing down the pace of life. And I think that can be managed through a global limitation of travel speed. Think, for instance, at limiting speed of travel at even 20-25 kilometers per hour everywhere for every mode, as advised by many researchers. And lastly, it means not doing only marketing by using good-looking keywords to attract rich inhabitants. It means regulating speed of travel and accepting that building nothing, proposing low-tech and convivial solutions can be both a very cheap and positive local action.
Okay, thank you, Emmanuel. Now we have some visions or imaginations concerning our future society, and we will have in the third part of our conference, we will have a look at some inspiring cases. Now I would like to give the word to Lucie Verchères from the organization Tempo Territorial on time policies. And everyone has, unfortunately, only 7 minutes to present his or her project. I have to be the time god, and we are already running out of time. But please, if it's possible, to be in that time slot.
Okay. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. I would share my screen with my slide. It's okay. Do you see my presentation?
Can you open it in the way you did it before? Yes.
Yes, it's good.
Now fine. Wonderful.
First, I would introduce me. I am in charge of Tempo Territorial Network, and I was previously responsible for the time mission of a metropole of Lyon. Tempo Territorial is it's the network of French actors of temporal approaches and policies. It's composed of local authorities, 12 local authority elected officials and services, but also experts and researchers. Then I would like to apologize for my colleague from Rennes and Lille Metropole, because in France there is spring holidays and they are not available today. I will therefore explain in summary form what these territories are doing on the issue of mobility during rush hour. Then I will also present what the Metropole of Lyon is doing thanks to its mobility management system with companies, which ultimately also aims to reduce rush hours. All in 7 minutes, and with my very poor English, that is a real challenge for me. So I begin with Rennes Metropole. The Rennes Time Office has been working on time and mobility issues for a long time. In first, the use of the metro in hyper-rush hours in connection with a major time generators such as the hospital or the university, which has shifted the timetable of classes by 15 minutes in order to make the metro traffic more fluid. Then also work with companies and employers, in particular with executive people, to achieve working out during work hours. We work a little bit before rush hour, and we go to the office after rush hour. Now Rennes is working on a new topic in connection with the implementation of Metro Line B. This involves carrying out a diagnosis and a time analysis and consulting the concerned actors, 18 college, high school, universities, in order to raise their awareness and encourage them to shift their working hours to avoid saturation, depending on the result of the study. And at last, but not at least, promotion of co-working by a cooperation with all co-working actors in order to create a network of co-working on the territory to better reconcile work and not work time, to reduce mobility in order to aim for local mobility and to improve air quality. Then for Lille Métropole, now have a look at Lille Métropole action. As you can see, these are the same issues as Rennes Métropole. But a new thing is a European project that they are submit, and it's interesting because if the project they submit called Time to Adapt is selected by European Commission, it will allow the development of a lot of temporal action directly with a municipality, and of course, including some action on mobility. Then third, let's have a look for Métropole of Lyon mobility action. You can see a list on the screen, a list of time mobility action that are currently running. It's a little bit the same that Rennes and Lille. At Lyon, but a lot of companies, 484 companies, is a very big action. All these actions, Rennes, Lille or Lyon, now what lesson can be learned? All these actions require close consultation with all mobility actors, services, transport operator, companies, employers, or syndicate. This is a real know-how of the time offices. This, whether it be to the company or a university, it's necessary to set up a concertation, a big consultation, and to pull all the actors around the table to discuss and build action that get agreement for everyone. The other things that it's very important for me for reducing mobility and changing mobility behavior in rush hours is the range of multimodal mobility services. Because times have gone out of synchronization and we no longer do the same thing on Mondays or Tuesday or Friday and so on. So for each day, we can use a different mode of travel. It's very, very important for me to understand this if we want to support changes in mobility behavior. I have only 7 minutes, so there is a link to have more information for this action. And you can see what Métropole of Lyon made for carpooling, for instance, or for managing with salariés for individual counsel for mobility. And also for design method to work with employers of companies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucie, for this really inspiring presentation concerning how to deal with the rush hour. That was really, really inspiring. Thank you very much. And I will switch right now to the next inspiring cases and speakers. And the question there is how to build the 15-minute cities. And I welcome Adriana Miquel, Director of the Urban Strategy at the Barcelona City Council, and Silvia Profanta, Director of the Office for Time and Statistics at the Municipality of Bolzano. Welcome.
Hola.
The stage is yours.
Okay. Hello. I began, Ariane, I began. Jo parlaré en català.
I will speak in Catalan. So if you want to switch, I was told I could do it in Catalan. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm Ariadna Miquel, Urban Strategy Director at the Barcelona City Council. Can you see my presentation?
Now we need the presentation models. Oh, fine.
Yes. Like this, it's okay. Can you see and it's running?
Yeah, yes.
Bueno, doncs...
Okay.
Soc Ariadna Miquel, la directora...
I'm Ariadna Miquel, in charge of urban strategy at the Barcelona City Council. I have a timer by my side to stick to the time because we are here discussing time uses. So I'll try to go straight to the point. I'm here to talk about the Superblocks in Barcelona. Superblocks is a public space project, but not only that, it's a project that has become a strategy to us rather than a project, a strategy to achieve a more humane, closer, more resilient and more healthy city. It's a helpful strategy helping us change behaviors and face the challenges that will be posed to us by the climate emergency. Once again, time, we don't have time left. Barcelona declared in January 2020 the climate emergency by saying what you see on screen. This is not a drill. This was to raise awareness about the fact that we don't have time to discuss the model or where we are headed. We need to take action immediately. We can't wait any longer. We need to take action, we need to reconcile, and we need to work on 3 different levels because we have many challenges. So I'm talking about the global scale, the urban metropolitan scale, but also the human scale. And as previous speakers have said, we keep growing and we increasingly forget about the human scale and proximity. And growth has taken us to a model that has an impact on our health. And in Barcelona, we have a pollution issue. Our pollution rates have a negative impact on our health. We also have greenhouse effect impacts, greenhouse gas impacts, and we don't have public space or green space per inhabitant, especially thinking about proximity green spaces. We are here to discuss time, and that's what matters the most. In L'Eixample neighborhood, we have 2 square meters of green space per inhabitant, so very far away from any health recommendations. And these results in a series of health problems, premature deaths, cancer, etc. So we all agree on that. We have a mobility issue, we have a health issue, and we have scarcity of green spaces. So there are only 2 potential solutions. We need to stop polluting and increase green spaces. And that's why we need to change our mobility and focus on a more efficient, sustainable mobility system, not only from a pollution standpoint, but also regarding the space, the way we inhabit the space. We need systems that release space, because by doing that, we will increase our green spaces and stop polluting. We have short distance city in Barcelona because proximity has always been a priority. Here you have the market map and the library map, which are two key facilities in the city. They are very scattered, but we lack green spaces, as I said. The superblocks help us solve or deal with these two problems. By reorganizing mobility, we can regain that space. I'm sure you're familiar with the model, but it's about specializing each street. I mean, some streets will be for urban mobility and other streets will be exclusively to be green spaces and to have a different use of the public space. These are not so well connected, and this allows us to have a better public space.
En el fons, no? El que fem és intentar superposar totes les xarxes de
This is a
mobilitat.
network project. We want to make the mobility networks as efficient as possible, and we can gain this space in this way. So it's not just about removing cars from certain specified streets. It's about improving mobility everywhere, on every street, from the larger thoroughfares to the others. I mean, even the larger interconnection thoroughfares, we're removing some lanes in order to prioritize more sustainable and efficient mobility. We've already tried this out in different parts of the city. For instance, this is the Poblenou superblock. This is Sant Antoni superblock, and we know it works. We've got indicators that show how it works. We have Sant Antoni. We've gained 25,000 square meters for pedestrians. In the neighborhood, car traffic is down by 20%, and pollution obviously is down as well. And retail revenue has increased, as have social activities. And we've also found that we have more time, that citizens use public space more, they have more time for it, and they're also more independent. So we need the right indicators to help us grasp the different way of using public space that we're proposing. Since we've tested it and we believe in it, we're proposing to extend it to the whole city. And here we have the new network of social and green infrastructure. Right now, we're about to start working on the Eixample district, where we have the maximum levels of pollution. And yet this is the area that has the greatest interconnectedness through public transport. So there will be 21 new squares. We'll have a new a new way of distributing the street. It's very different from what streets look currently. This is some work done during COVID. We knew that we wanted to slow down traffic in some of these specific streets, so work was done to gain space. And this is the final picture that we want to achieve. This is what it looks like right now, because a lot of work is being done, but it will shortly be completed. And the idea is to spread this approach to the city as a whole. Obviously, this has to be done through or with participation. A change of this extent needs to engage citizens through all the different possible participatory approaches. And in order to evaluate and assess the impact of what has been done on the human scale and on the time scale, we have designed a series of indicators, some of them regarding public spaces and environmental quality, but we also want to assess the impact on socioeconomic activities and on society. And one thing that is quite highly valued by the public is this analysis of all the differences in use that happen in the refurbished streets, because having implemented a change, we needed to quantify the change or the impact of this change, rather. So this is field work, measuring the different kinds of use done or made of the streets. We also break it down by gender and age group. And there is also a focus on caregiving tasks because, as other speakers have mentioned, intersectionality is important, and you have to look at how the differences impact different genders and different age groups. Lastly, running out of time, here you have a link to the Superilla Barcelona book. Let's see, Barcelona Superblock book. If you just click on that link, you will have access to information about the whole project. Thank you very much. That's it from me.
Thank you, Ariadna. Now we've got a lot of pictures and a lot of impressions what's going on in Barcelona, and immediately would like to have a look at the municipality of Bolzano. Silvia.
Yes, hello to everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and I share my screen if you have. So I hope you can see it. Can you see it? Okay. So I would like to tell you today something about the concept of Bolzano, about the 50-minute city. First, a few data about the city of Bolzano. Bolzano is the capital of the province of South Tyrol in the north of Italy. It's the northest province of Italy, and it's at the border to Austria. We have 160,000 inhabitants who live in the urbanized area of about 21 square kilometers. The whole city area is extended about 52 square kilometers, and as you can see on this picture, we have a lot of forests and fruit in this area, fruit and vineyards. So the whole territory of Bolzano is divided in 5 districts, as you can see here. In the 1990s, the administration of Bolzano has come to the conclusion that Bolzano should become a polycentric city and a 50-minute city to increase the quality of life of all who are living in the city, to reduce also the mobility, and to shorten the ways to get to the shops and to the work and to the civic centers. So Bolzano should become a city where most of the human needs and many desires are located, so that all can be reached by walking or cycling within a quarter hour. In 1995, the administration decided to decentralize the essential public services, to improve the service quality, to shorten the waiting times, and to avoid affecting mobility in the city. So now, in this moment, in every district, in every of the 5 districts, we have civic centers, which are little municipal offices, where the citizens can complete all the administrative procedures they want to do. The 0-14-year-old can live in the neighborhood all the time, because the nurseries, the primary and the middle schools, the parks and the sport facilities are all closed to them. In every district, there are also present the youth and senior centers, a primary health and social service, and cultural structures, associations, and events are distributed all over the territory. Also, the public library you can find near and close to you. In the last years, also co-working spaces emerged, And in the city, we have about 30 Wi-Fi hotspots, so people can connect to free internet. To support these goals, the administration focuses on sustainable mobility. In the city, there are 70 kilometers of cycling paths, and also the bus routes and the bus stops are well distributed. We have 340 bus stops, so every 150 meters there's a bus stop. In the area, we have also 4 train stations. One is the central train stations here located, and 3 are in the urban, so also the commuters can reach the city comfortable by train. Bolzano has 3 cable cars, and using this, we can reach the neighboring municipalities on the hills. Now I would like to focus on, in particular, on the bicycle mobility. The administration has the average in 2002 of trips by bike. They were 70%. In 2021, the average increased to 26%, and our goal is to reach the 34% in 3 years. What are the actions of the municipality today? The municipality is going to extend the cycle paths because we think it's important to link all the schools and the production area to the cycling network, so the people can use the bike to go to work or to school. During the whole year, we are organizing mobile bike repair shops and also courses for children and also for the foreigner women to use the cycle. The municipality created also multiple bike parking areas and a lot of bike sharing stations around of the territory. So everyone can use it, also the commuters or the tourists can use the bike in the city. So it's very important for us to extend and decrease the percentage of people who use the bicycles. So this was really a short introduction of these 50 mini cities for me, and I thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much for this compact and short presentation. And the city of Bolzano is one of the cities who has, as I think, one of the longest traditions of time policies in Europe. Was quite interesting to hear what you are going to improve now. I will come to the third inspiring cases and speakers, and the question for this group was how to encourage a timely, sustainable mobility outside big cities. Now we took a look at the cities, and one of the problems is that we often have solutions for big cities, but we do not, or we overlook small cities or the rural areas. And I welcome Cristina Caramperi, Department of Research and Communications in Trikala, and Gabriele Davanzo, Project Officer at the Metropolitan City of Milan, which is also a big one.
Hello, everybody. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen now?
Now it's
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, hello, everybody. My name is Cristina Caramperi. I represent the Greek city of Trikala and its developmental company called Trikala, and I'm here to present you the case study of Smarta 2, which is our answer on how to encourage a timely, sustainable mobility outside big cities. So, a few words about our city. It is an old city, almost than 500 years old of history, located in central Greece in Thessaly. There are more than 85,000 people living in Trikala. 75% of them lives inside the city, whereas the rest of them in rural areas around the city. We are divided in 8 municipal sections, and these sections are also divided in local communities. Now, although there are many people living outside the city, the key urban area is the city center, meaning that all the administrative, commercial, residential, entertainment, institutional activities are taking place there. In our city also, you can find some universities, the University Department of Sports Science, the Higher Education Military School, the Technological University for Buildings, and as well as Technological University for Structural Materials. Our city is considered a smart one, fully equipped with many smart services that are located and monitored from our control room at the City Hall. And in collaboration with our own developmental company called Trikala, we have implemented more than 38 European projects, therefore we have a lot of experience in IT innovations. Many of these projects are focusing on sustainable mobility, hoping that we are going to solve some of our mobility issues and increase our quality of life. All these projects have one thing in common, bottom-up procedure and citizens engagement at an early stage, meaning that when it comes in having the citizens supporting sustainable mobility, we have three key factors that were put into action: a bottom-up procedure, co-creation activities, and citizens participation. So every time we need to implement something new, we adopt this kind of procedure at an early stage, and we invite the local stakeholders and the local mobility community, not just to evaluate and test a new service, but also to co-design it at the early beginning. This has an added value for us because throughout the years we have established a very active and open mobility community that can play a vital role in all our future projects. Lastly, the last year we have joined the 100 climate neutral cities up to 2030 initiative, and we are focusing on creating services toward this approach as well. Now about the Smarta 2 project. Smarta 2 project was funded by the European Union and was implemented during 2018 and 2020. The main goal of this project was to support and set up cost-efficient, environmentally friendly first or last mile solutions, often combined with existing public or private services and supporting this way 4 rural areas. One of these rural areas were in Trikala, our city. Through this project, we gathered the evidence of the effectiveness of the solutions, and we also worked very closely with a previous project called Smarta, because this is Smarta 2, and had a common evaluation framework when we tried to collect evidence about the environmental footprint, the cost efficiency, and effectiveness of our mobility solutions that we implemented. In this way, by gathering all this data, we were able to create a toolkit for recommendations, lessons learned, that could actually support the implementation of shared sustainable mobility solutions to other rural areas in Europe as well. Which was the problem that Smarta 2 was trying to solve in our city? As I said before, many people live in areas around the city, and however, our key urban area is the city center, meaning that most people need to commute to the city center on a daily basis. The problem for Trikala is that our rural sites are underserved by public transport, and as a result, our mobility largely depends on individual car use. There are more than 50,000 cars currently commuting on a daily basis to the city center. This has, as you can understand, a negative impact on the environment, can cause severe traffic congestion at the city center, but also has a social impact because even, especially during the pandemic, many people could not own a car or use their car on a daily basis to commute to the city, and therefore could not have access to essential services. So with our Smarta 2 application, we created an online application that allowed citizens from rural areas to access real-time public transport information, along with an available carpooling option. This application, in addition, also included a booking system, allowing them to pre-book storage lockers, wheelchair scooters, and bicycles offered at the city center main square. So in our 2 rural areas, 2 villages, Megali Kalivia and Megarchi, what we offer to them through this application is the ability to no longer take their car to travel to the city on a daily basis, go online, see in real time when the bus arrives on the nearest bus station, bus stop. If there is no such an option, actually go again online and have a carpooling option with a neighbor or a friend. And as they have arrived at the city center, they will have pre-booked a bicycle to take and go around and do their chores, a locker to leave their belongings, and if they had mobility issues, there was a wheelchair scooters that could be adjusted to any kind of wheelchair. So this is more or less the application, the solution we offer to people living in rural areas in order to commute to the city center by using sustainable mobility services. This application proved very friendly. People actually embraced it. It offered the ability to use different kinds of mobility services in combination. It is available on Android and iOS, and it is scalable, meaning that the application can adjust and can be enriched with additional services if needed. It also offers the ability to collect data, which are very essential for us for our mobility, future mobility planning. This Smarter True application offered us a lot of opportunities, like it allowed us actually to introduce to the public and familiarize them with the multimodal transportation and shared mobility. It also gave us, through the data that we collected, gave us the opportunity to understand real demand, and that was very essential for us for our future planning. And it will also become a strong asset in our hands in order to attract funding and other initiatives. Actually, many of our future mobility projects we are now implementing have as a base Smarter True application, although the project has been finalized almost 2 years ago. So I believe I do have some time, so I will just show you the services. So here you can see that on real time, the person has pre-booked the bicycle, the locker, or the wheelchair scooter. This is how we can see in real time when the bus will arrive at the nearest bus station. And this is the carpooling service.
Okay, we are a bit running out of time.
Okay, I will stop it now. More or less, you get the point about how the service was implemented. One last thing. All the services, the lockers, the wheelchair scooter, the bicycles offered at the station, and the real-time information, everything that has to do have been implemented through Smarter True application, was not our idea. It was the creation of our co-creation methodology with the citizens. It was the citizens that designed it and asked for us to implement it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Christina. I will directly switch to Gabriela.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Hello. I'm Gabriela D'Avanzo of Metropolitan City of Milano. My organization have just approved a bicycle mobility plan that identify cycle route primary network, connection with the secondary network, objective to promote cycling and action to get there. The name of the bicycle mobility plan is Cambio, and is a system project that aims to integrate environmental protection, safety, economic development, and general well-being. The name Cambio means I change. The plan intends to encourage people to change their habits and choose to travel by bicycle because it's a sustainable, healthy, safe, flexible, fun mode of transport, easy and smart. The bicycle became the most obvious means of transport. I try to show our some pictures. How to encourage timely, sustainable mobility outside the city. Build the infrastructure to create the opportunity to move to the place where people already go. The territory of metropolitan city of Milano lends itself to this approach. It develops in a plant around a large city, but not so large. Milano has 1.3 million inhabitants, cover a radius of about 15 kilometers, and it's Italy's main business hub. Cambio identified 16 radials to connect the center of Milano with the entire metropolitan area, and the 4 cycle roads you can see there that connect the most populated municipalities around the city. Also, we have 4 greenways developing in the natural areas. The radials intercept the territory strategic hub, the high school, who's attended by students age 14, 18, who do not have a driving license, university, railway station, and metro, the M or the station, the business center, shopping center, also hospital, park, and meeting place. Cambio plan to build 800 kilometers of cycle paths related to the main network. Each cycle path is identified as a metro lane, and bike lane are a cycle highway. They are 4 meters wide lanes, 2 meters in each direction. There, where it's possible to go at higher speed, and where there is enough space for different types of user, cycle, e-bikes, cargo bikes for delivery, medical bikes for users with reduced mobility. The performance level of the cycle track guide the design choice. Wide enough for all type of user. Red pavement to be easy identifiable. Straight to be the shortest route. Without bar to allow everyone to pass, but with the reduced cross section at the intersection to allow the slowing down and minimize conflict. Other feature of Cambio super cycle paths are draining pavement, so as not to waterproof the ground, illuminated for safety reason in out of town areas, but with the light that intensify as people pass, clear and recognize signposting. Each bicycle path is identified by a number and a color. Optical fiber owned by the Metropolitan City of Milano is laid under the cycle path, thus also providing a digitalization service to the metropolitan area. Each cycle path of Cambio is about 25 kilometers long from the center of Milano. We have started to build line 6, the pink line. We have 7-8 stops, and we built approximately 8 kilometers to the center of Milano till Segrate station. We have applied for obtain next generation fund for another 5 line, in particular for line 2, for line 5, for line 7, for line 12, and for line 15. We are in project phase and construction will begin in the late summer and we'll have to finish before 2026. Part of the network include also already existing paths and will need to be redeveloped, upgraded, and above all connected between them. A private operator has expressed its willingness to build at its own expense Circle Line Round 3, which connects the most populated municipality around the city of Milano, about 80 kilometers. Evidently, the construction of a bicycle path with these characteristics also offers development opportunities for stakeholders in the area. Thanks to the new infrastructure that the Metropolitan City of Milano is going to build in the next future, it will be possible at last to create a solid soft mobility network that would only link the capital city to its outstrike, but provide better connection to all the inhabitants of the territory of their workspace, leisure place, or just to the next train station, finally giving the chance to people to move in a sustainable, healthy, and safety way.
Thank you very much, Gabriele, for...
Thank you.
Thank you. I just realized that my microphone wasn't open. So thank you for keeping in time and for this insight in the plannings of Milano. And we're going to switch to the fourth inspiring cases, which is one. And the question is how urban planning can integrate gender and time perspectives. And now we are going to look at the Catalan government. We welcome Josep Maria Fortuny, Deputy Director General for Transport and Mobility at the Catalan government, as far as I know. Am I right?
Okay, hello. Hello, Caroline. Good afternoon, good evening to everybody. Almost evening. How are you doing? Can you see the presentation? It's okay. So we'll be short in time. We are running out of it, so it's let's make the best use of it. We'll talk about briefly about the new ExpressCat network. Its idea is how to improve and how to ameliorate the in terms of time, in terms of efficiency, all the performing of a huge network of buses, interurban, suburban buses in Catalonia, and how to make the best from the part of this bus network that concentrates the main part of the demand, and how to make this type of bus services work in terms of saving time to its customers. You see how it's a big. Your left, we have the big numbers of the bus network in Catalonia, and how we picked up the top 40 lines in terms of demand to make them with a new strategy in order to give a new image. You'll see, and how and in order to increase the performance of these lines, because as you see, these 40 lines are concentrated in the main areas, in the main districts of concentrating altogether the mobility in terms of frequency, in terms of affluence to the main capitals in our country, in Barcelona, of course, but also the three other capitals of the districts that are Lleida, Tarragona, and Girona. You will see all the lines that were configured, described, and that are now in almost every one of them is already working. What are the main characters of these services? The more important is that are more frequency and high frequency. So most of the times these bus services are from one city to the main city that has the objective of being served. And also there is a new attributes of these lines, as the use of bus lanes specifically designed for these buses, the priority in traffic intersections, and the improvement on the quality of bus stops. Also, it's important to say that in terms of information to the user, these bus stops, the service lines, are provided with dynamic information updated in real time. And also this information inside the vehicle, and also in the apps or smartphones and that are disposable for the customers. Also, the 100% of these vehicles are accessible for disabled people. These are more sustainable vehicles, and that give more comfort to the customers. You can have access to Wi-Fi, and then have also free newspapers to make the journey more comfortable and more attractive. And also the final attribute is a more intermodality facilities. So the stops are conceived to give the best to the intermodal potentiality of these bus lines in terms of commute with or interchange with other means like train or other urban buses, bike, metro, and other means of transport. To make the image more attractive to people, it has been designed as a specially designed corporate image, Express.cat, that, as it shows, brings visibility to the user and facilitate the rapid identification. And most of the lines, almost probably every one of these, will be integrated in the new phare system in Catalonia. It's the T-Mobilitat. How is the implementation of this network? Nowadays, we are in 90% of the total of the 42 Express.cat bus lines. You have in Barcelona, that concentrates the offer, 23, 7 in Tarragona, 6 in Girona, and 6 in Lleida. So we can say that the level of implementation is really high by now. And the results in terms of demand, we have an average of 2 million trips a month, with an average for expedition occupation of 30-35 passengers. That's very high. And the increase between 2019 and 2022, taking in account the 2 years of the COVID pandemic, it has been a 2.6% increase, and probably at the end of the year will be at the end of the present year, 2023, will be even higher. The satisfaction surveys of the users are really good too, and gives and the different items give an average of 8 points. For example, in the line E4, that is the one that I have selected here. Thank you for your attention. We think that it's an initiative that, in terms of saving time, has been very useful, has been very well accepted among the users, and that give the bus another type of serving demand, apart from the more capillary uses that we are more used to in the case of bus services, confronting the rail services, for instance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for keeping in time with your presentation and the insights to the new possibilities of the Catalan mobility. Even the newspaper, I was impressed. That's a good idea to give a counterpart to all those news which are not so serious via social media and so on. So that's a good idea to strengthen this media. I would now again ask people. I think the discussion was very fluent already in the chat, and I would ask Emmanuel and Gabriel now, if it's possible that you just join the open discussion and we do not make a certain extra point which we wanted to make at the end of the discussion. Is it okay for you? Just a short feedback if it's okay for you to be part of the public discussion. Okay, so perhaps you start with a short statement. What your impression is, or what perhaps surprising or quite new could you gain of this projects, these inspiring projects? Perhaps that would be a good starting point.
Hi. Okay, I can start. Yes, it's very interesting to see how different cities are tackling the issue of the improving mobility systems with time. There is this this effort to reduce to improve the mobility systems, reduce travel time, but I think it's still miss having this change of the perception of how we should move in the city. And I think, for example, in the presentation of Barcelona, we could see this different approach on how we should improve our communities so we can reduce the need for traveling. But I also understand, and especially in this last one, that there are from the Express Card, that we have many communities that are in the smaller municipality and rural zone, and they need to have enhanced access to public facilities. For example, they need to have better access to go to hospitals that normally are in other cities, and if they don't have this enhanced mobility, they may end up leaving these smaller cities and towns that they live. So it's important to consider that aspect as well, not only the community building aspect. I would just complement with a personal anecdote. I live in Superilla, in the Superilla of Sant Antoni in Barcelona. And one day I was there down on one of the benches, one of these intersections, and there was a neighbor sitting in the other bench, and he was like sitting and calm and looking all the landscape and looking at people. And another neighbor came and sat with him in this bench, and then he started to complain about the Superilla with this person. And for me, this contradiction. It was the fulfillment of the Superilla mission itself, because it's people stopping, people occupying the space, people communicating to each other, and they were bonding, and they're bonding by complaining of this space that are enabled them to do it. And that was like the perfect fulfillment of the Superilla, and say like it works indeed, and it creates community. Even if you want to complain about it, it's creating community, and it's lowering the pace of people and making people enjoy the public spaces. And it was a really interesting anecdote about the Superilla that it really surprised me, but not surprised me. But it was an interesting fact.
Okay, Emmanuel.
Yes, thank you for all those very documented presentation. And it's still a complicated exercise. So many things were mentioned. And it's still complicated for me to propose any judgment. I mean, I can perhaps just share what was kind of a surprise or remark that I have noticed rather than saying what is good or what. So, yeah, I was really, I really appreciated, I was really interested in the fact that many experiences seem to have done an evaluation after what they have proposed, after their experiments. And from what I have observed in the past in time policies is that sometimes it was reproached to them that their policy weren't sufficiently evaluated to justify the benefits. And so I think it's really an important point here that I have seen many cities evaluation on time policies, and it's good for time policy to show what are the benefits that are at stake behind. And yeah, I was also really interested in the Superblock initiative in Barcelona, because from my point of view, it goes kind of directly in the direction of what I see behind interesting things in front of Right of Time. I mean, it's slowing travel speed in a specific area. It creates social interaction in this space. And then it offers the possibility for people to use their time in an alternative way that seems to be interesting if they have the time beside their work agenda and so on. I have noticed other things, but perhaps it's interesting to open the discussion to the other and then have an exchange.
I've collected a lot of questions, and one of the questions, I just have a look. Where was it? There was from Elisa. No, I do not find them in my chat. Where has it gone? It's to both of us, and it's concerning the question as far as we use time as something like a not a quality issue, but an issue which can be sold, or which has a I do not get. I got it. It's research. No, it's not the question. Elisa, do you hear me? I think your name was Elisa, and I think it was.
If you want, we can do the questions to everybody, and I look for this one specifically, Caroline, and I send to you.
No, please perhaps we open the floor for everybody. I read a lot of the questions, but I think it's the easiest way if people to the first speakers time. Yes, I got it. To the first, it's while we treat time as a commodity, as a resource to be used in making financial profit. This was that question concerning the neoliberal capitalism as a commodity. And what do you think about this question, which is I think a very basic one, how we deal with time?
Yes, as we have many questions, Caroline, maybe you can read all of them, and then each speaker choose one to answer, because we have 10 minutes to finish.
Yes, we have questions to Milan and Barcelona. Many of these solutions are smart or reliant on technology. How can these solutions be transferred, adapted to the global South, where contexts are different? So this is one, which means the gap between the global North and South. Then another, many of that's what I got. I would like to know how if schools are being considered in your projects, and could we cooperate to raise the debate about the amount experience of time to schools and schools university? I think there's a possibility to answer. I remember there are bike lines which go to schools. Another question, all the services, carpooling, real-time info on buses, scooters, and so on can be checked from the same app, or are they different apps? Mercedes have one to Emmanuel. There is any research on time used for commuting through history? As far as I know, yes. Then what else? That's double. Yes, I think now we've got a list of questions which can be answered. So, who wants to? Emmanuel.
Okay, Emmanuel, go on.
No. Okay, well.
No, I saw that you opened your microphone, that's why.
Okay. Complicated synchronicity in front of the screen. Yeah, the first question to me was a really important question regarding the potential gap between, let's say, local policy and things that are possible to do at local scale, and issues relating to time that are a bit overscaling the local policy. For instance, the fact that time is considered as money in our society is a really important fact that is present in every presentation regarding mobility and all we have discussed. And this is a key issue regarding the right to time, regarding how we manage sustainability with time regulation. And for sure, I don't know how local governments can go over this concern. Still, you have an option when you're local policymakers, and for instance, building space where time is more guided in the direction of interaction between people rather than going to work very fast and then returning to home and so on, can trigger something at the end by a cumulative aspect. But I'm not a policymaker, so it depends not on me, but this is my view about it, perhaps.
Thank you, Emmanuel. There was a question about schools. I remember that we had a presentation where schools are already in the program concerning the time schedule, as far as I think, and bike lines which connect schools. It was in Milano, as far as I think.
Bergamo. It was Bergamo. I don't know if Silvia wants to add something on that. How schools are connected with the mobility?
Yes, we have connected, all our schools are connected by bicycle lines. So the children also in the higher schools can go by bicycle to the schools. And in the primary, in the middle schools, there are also like pedibus. These are lines of people who walk together from one point, from one square. They meet them in the morning and go together to the school. So the parents can go to work and the children go to school alone. So we are organized here.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is an important thing, that this transporting children thing that gets less and less. So the taxi mama is not the best way for mobility. Perhaps the last question, which concerns the smart devices and the global south. Has somebody an idea what to answer on this question? Gabriela?
See, I'm sorry. I think that some of the solutions are not necessarily like some of the solutions are not necessarily based on technology, as some the ones, for example, in the 5-minute city, and the improvement of bus lanes, for example, the improvement of some mobility systems, and improving the opportunities inside the communities. This can be also adapted to the realities of the global south. Although there's in the global south that we have bigger inequality issues and land use and planning that we need to overcome to have cities that have enhanced access to opportunities, and people does not need to have to take 2 hours to commute, for example. And I don't believe that are smart technologies that are going to solve these issues in the global south. This is concerned on the model that we produce these cities and how the different opportunities are distributed. So it parts also from the service providers, for example, the local governments, local regional governments, to have a better distribution of services. As we see many examples here in the different cities, we have a better service provisions inside the communities, and also have policies that incentivize people to have a more community living, as Eduardo was saying, to slow pace and changing lifestyles as well, and how we move and through the city. Changing a bit this sense that we need to commute, for example, for leisure. If we have leisure opportunities closer to our home, for example, that we need to commute to have access to parks for our children or to other community space that we can enjoy in some services.
Okay.
I think this is would be the best approach, and not only for the global south, but also to the cities here in the developed world. We don't need this over-reliance on technology to solve the issues. We can use this to improve the mobility system, but we need to rethink how we occupy the cities and how we plan the services that we have and how we plan the land occupation as well.
Case of the attitude. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Just to
much.
complement, Caroline, what Gabriela was saying, that's as well one of the objectives of the network, that as you know, time policies emerged in Europe in the 1980s, and especially in Italy and France, and later to other countries around Europe. But now the interest of time policies has gone beyond Europe, especially in this global south, especially in Latin America. We have many cities interested in that topic. And that's why one of the activities of the network will be in June to do a forum in Spanish explaining and exchanging time policies in Latin America.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the last point of our conference here, I'm very glad that I can present for the last minutes the counselor, Angelo Gennacaro, Counselor for Digital Innovation and Time Policies at the Municipality of Bolzano, World Capital of Time Policies in 2023. Welcome for the closing words.
Thank you very much. The organization blocked me the video. It's impossible to start the video. The organization blocked it.
That's a pity, so we have to concentrate on your words.
Okay, now I can. Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody.
Oh, wonderful. No.
Okay, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
To start, I would like to thank the Secretary of Network, Marta, Ariadna, and Mark, and my team, Silvia, Sabina, and Noemi. I strongly believe that what we are doing as a network is really, really important. We have collected more than 35, I think, examples and best practice from all over Europe and some countries of Latin America. And this is it's great. It's very great. The agenda aims to become a guide for institutions interested in time policies, but it is also really important for all of us. These meetings are fundamental to find common ground between cities and regions and to take inspiration by others. Starting from the example of one city and other could implement a similar project. Basically, we help each other to solve common issues. This year, Bolzano has been elected World Capital of Time Policies, and I am very grateful for this opportunity, and I am very excited for the coming events. I warmly invite all of you and all the people who are watching us from home to come in Bolzano this year of Time Week 2023. From the 10th to the 12th of May, we will host several conferences concerning different topics, the future of time policies, like time policies, and new working time models. Registration are open on our website. I thank you again for having me here today, and good afternoon.
Thank you very much for your closing words and the invitation, this short advertisement block. Now we have an additional announcement, and I would thank very much all those participants, all those speakers, all those who prepared their presentations, and especially to the organizing team in Barcelona. And the very last word I would like to give to Marta.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you everybody for joining today. It has been a very nice suite of a combination of reflections of Gabriela and Emmanuel, and also very nice to listen concrete experience that can inspire to us to implement time policies. So as we said before, this is the local and regional governments time network. So if you want to join, if you want to have more information, you can check the website where you will find all the information, and as well you will find today's presentations and the publication that we have done. Nothing else. Thank you very much to everybody, and I hope to see you soon, face to face, very soon in Bolzano and in the rest of the events. Caroline, I give the floor to you.
So, yes, thank you very much. And I hope everybody has now enough inspiration for using his or her time in a sophisticated way, so that you feel happy with it and use your sleep for doing something sustainable. Bye-bye.